had that kind of pressure coming through it. What can you tell us about the condition of the pipeline?
Well, the pipeline is inspected using inline inspection tools. The pipeline is monitored with our control center in Houston, and we follow the regulatory requirements for inspection and maintenance of that pipeline.
If it was built, I don't know, in the 40s or 50s, and say a pipeline that were built today, of course, probably would be built differently. Is there concern that it should be stopped and reconfigured, or is that on the table?
Well, again, I will say I am here really to focus on recovery and relief efforts. However, we do follow all prudent and required maintenance and inspection requirements on the pipeline.
And if I could add just a little bit to that, I want to make a distinction here. It's investigational jurisdiction. Can everyone hear me? Do we need to move the microphones? We're playing. Give a courtesy here. Thank you. And investigational jurisdiction lies with the U.S. Department of Transportation, and I think it's important to get that out there. And so I think it may be an obvious point to us, and maybe not to everyone else. There is a protocol that's being followed for investigation purposes. U.S. Department of Transportation naturally wants to determine the cause of the release and what caused the pipeline to rupture for reasons that may not be obvious. You automatically think in terms of liability, but I think maybe the unwritten policy behind their jurisdiction is that we want to protect all pipelines from rupture. And so there's a learning that's going to go on after they finish their jurisdiction. Our response and remediation efforts, we can't go to the pipeline. I mean, the pipeline's off limits until the DOT says that we can begin that work. And so I just want to say that we're not doing any investigation. It's my understanding that the pipeline will be removed. That segment of pipeline will be determined just how much of the pipeline to remove, and it'll be taken to a laboratory where the DOT, U.S. DOT, will do that inspection. Next question. In the back.
What's the usual operating pressure for this pipeline?
At this point, I can't give you the exact number of what the pressure is at that location.
Do you know what the maximum rated pressure is, or when it was tested last? Pressure tested?
No, I do not have that information in front of me at this time.
I understand that every so often there are rectifiers and sacrificial anodes that help reduce corrosion. Have you checked those to see if those were working properly?
Again, I'm here to focus on relief and recovery efforts, so I do not have that information regarding whether anyone has checked rectifiers at this point.
You know if this is a coated pipeline, is there an external coating on it, or was it built prior to the time of doing that?
Information I've seen indicates that this is a coated pipeline.
You know what the coating is?
I do not know what it was at that particular spot. We have not been able to get up, and I have not been able to get up to it, and I am not part of the investigative team at this point.
Is it correct that this section that burst, burst along a seam where the pipe was manufactured?
Again, I'm not part of the investigation team, and I have not been in the area where the rupture or leak occurred.
Is there someone else here that can answer those questions?
Yeah, when will we have somebody that will answer those questions? Maybe.
I can't give it.
I'm Karen Tyrone with ExxonMobil Pipeline Company. I've talked with many of you throughout the week. And,
Could you speak up?
Hi, I'm Karen Tyrone with ExxonMobil Pipeline Company. I've spoken with many of you throughout the week. I just want to reiterate what the judge said. We are doing a thorough investigation. That does require, as you can appreciate, following certain procedures and protocols. We will review every procedure, including excavation, with the DOT, and we will receive permission from PHMSA, section of the DOT that regulates this pipeline, to proceed with that. So we have not excavated that portion of the line at this time. We're working with them to accelerate through that, and the details that you're asking, we don't have at this time.
You don't know those questions? You don't know the
No.
answers to the questions?
I do not know. We have not excavated the pipeline and have not determined exactly what portion of the pipeline failed.
Can you tell me if, what areas of Arkansas are considered to be extremely sensitive or vulnerable that require additional testing and compliance?
I mean, from an environmental standpoint?
I'm sorry?
From an environmental standpoint,
Yes, from the integrity of your pipeline.
we intend to maintain the integrity of the entire section of pipeline that runs through Arkansas and all states that the pipeline runs through. From an environmental sensitive area, the state would have to respond to that.
Isn't it correct?
This is going to be your last
I
question.
know that Exxon has submitted a, plan, and this may be to you and you may not know, but Exxon has submitted a plan to the DOT for, to kind of maybe like a timeline to excavate that and maybe start the investigation or start where. Can you detail at all what that proposal from Exxon to the DOT said?
Well, you are correct. We have submitted to them a proposal, a procedure. As you can imagine, they want to go through that and review it. We expect their response soon. Until we hear back from them, I'd rather not speculate on what that timeline will be.
Is there
Right here,
anyone from
right here.
INSA on
Sir,
site?
sir, I'm not going to allow you to monopolize the press conference. We want to get the message of this response to the community, and I appreciate your patience on that, but we don't want to be unfair to any of the other folks here. Right.
Yeah, my name's Rocky Kistner with NRDC, and I'd just like some clarification on the substance, the oil itself. People call it tar sands oil, and it presents certain kinds of challenges in the cleanup. And I'm curious from EPA standpoint, what sorts of challenges does this spill present in terms of its toxicity and ability to clean up? The Kalamazoo spill a few years ago, that's still ongoing 3 years later. Do you see this similarities with these spills and this kind of oil involved, tar sands oil?
Well, I don't know that it is tar sands oil. But we were told, our discussions with Exxon is that this is known as Wabasca heavy crude oil. They gave us an MSDS sheet on that type of oil. We have collected samples of the oil and have sent those off for analysis, but we don't have the results yet. So I really don't. I can't speak to the properties of the oil right now.
So right now you don't know what it is.
Like I said, we were told that it's Wabasca heavy crude oil. So, but we have sampled it and we have sent the samples off for analysis.
Yeah, Wabasca heavy is a conventionally produced crude oil from Western Canada.
Are they called diluted bitumen? Is that what we're talking about here?
I'm not familiar with that specific term.
Diluted bitumen?
I've known, from the information I have, this particular crude is called Wabasca heavy. It's, again, conventionally produced. It is not mined or steamed.
But it does contain bitumen.
It is heavy crude from Western Canada.
Drew?
Back to the issue of having this oil in the marsh area, can anyone answer if it is a characteristic? Will the toxins in that stay with the surrounding the initial area where the oil can be seen and picked up, or will it permeate the water?
Maybe I can refer your question to someone, either Game and Fish or U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I guess from my standpoint, the investigation is still in the response phase. I mean, the concern right now is to pick up visible oil and get folks back, the evacuated folks back in their houses. At some point, it will transition from a response phase to a remedial phase, and the real investigation of and sampling and other things of potential damage that's been done to the marsh areas and things like that will go on. But as you say, it hasn't, not at this point.